This is Lysha Holmes of Key Recruitment, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to be welcoming a wonderful lady that I have had the absolute pleasure of spending many evenings with over in Germany. This is Claire Midwood, and Claire, would you like to explain to our audience exactly who you are and how you've ended up in the position you're in, please?
Oh, of course. Well, hello, Lysha. Thank you very much for inviting me to this YouTube moment. So Claire Midwood, I'm British. I work for Amorelie, which is a German-based company, and we are in the sexual wellness space. We are selling sex toys, education, and all things necessary for our sexual wellness. I have been a senior executive at Adidas. I worked with them for 20 years. In Germany. I moved to America for a few years to work with Apple as a managing director there. And then I find myself now back here in Germany as the CEO of Amorelie. How did that all come about? I think I realized at a certain point that a CEO role was the right thing for me to do, the next step in my leadership, in my career progression. I also realized that sort of through researching different areas and different sectors, that actually this is a critical sector for everybody. The truth is everybody has sex or thinks about sex or wants to do something within the sexual space at some point, but it's probably the one thing that's least talked about. We worry about our health, so we eat well, we worry about our fitness, so we do sport and we're active, but actually we forget that the next component that's also critical is our sexual well-being. And if we don't understand ourselves on the inside, it's very difficult to form close bonds, build relationships with not only ourselves, but with our chosen partner. So I realized that this is an untapped space that is so critical, and I think will be critical for the future. And particularly with the whole COVID-19 lockdown, even more important when you have a little bit of time on your hands, maybe. What a great opportunity to go explore and understand your sexual needs and what's important to you. So it's a wonderful, I'm over 6 months in and it's brilliant. I love it. Great team, great opportunity, and an amazing experience. I've had conversations that I never thought I would have. About understanding toys, how it all works, that all the shenanigans that goes with that.
All the wisdom of being a slightly more mature person, actually, you can then share that across your customer base, and anyone that's watching this now, you need to click onto the website and have a look.
Yeah, please do. Go for it.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I think, you know, you've done a very nice summation there of what is an amazing career so far. And you are, on a personal and professional level, such a huge inspiration to me. And the reason I wanted you to come on today is that I recently listened to your podcast that you did with Craig Miller for Leaders. And it talked all about leadership. And I think, you know, as a very polite way of putting it, I think that this situation has polarized how certain leaders have behaved. And I think, and I'm being very generic, obviously, because there's always going to be grey in the middle. But generally speaking, what I've experienced within my client portfolio is that there are those that are being very brave and bold and putting plans in place and saying, we're going to do this. And there are others that are, for want of a better expression, put their heads in the sand. So as somebody that's clearly a strong leader, I want to talk to you today about what leaders should and can be doing and what sort of qualities they can be showing to their teammates in terms of what's going on in the current situation.
I mean, I think, you know, the most important thing is communication. Whether you're in lockdown or you're not in lockdown, your job as a leader is to communicate. And I'm a big believer in transparency. And in doing so, you have to share the good, the bad and the ugly with the team. And I mean, not just your right hand or your director community, but I mean through the organization. Because if everybody knows the reality of good and bad, you can start to do something about it. And I think that goes for lockdown or not lockdown. I think in lockdown, actually, you have to over communicate and you have to be over present. And I mean, not just present like you turn up, but you actually have to be present. You have to listen, you have to learn, you have to understand and hear what people are saying. Because there's a lot of fear in, you know, in the ugly and the bad, there's fear. Like, what does it mean? Will we have a job? Where are we going to go? What's the future going to look like? Of course, I have no crystal ball, so I can't predict those things. But by being vulnerable and honest and having those open conversations. I have no idea where we're going, but this is what I think we need to do in case we get there, or if this happens. So not to constantly think about backup plans, but to have those honest conversations of who knows what's going to happen. We don't know if there's going to be a second wave with COVID-19. We have no idea. But let's not worry about it. Let's look at what we've got, what we know today, and plan for our future, regardless of extenuating circumstances that we have no control over. So I think that's, I think the transparency and the over communication is key, and sticking your head in the sand ain't going to help anyone. It's actually going to just allow the fear to grow and fester, and then you're not going to be able to have the honest conversations with your team, because they see the fear and they feel the fear. Humans.
That's that, doesn't it? I think on your podcast you talked about vulnerability, and it really resonated with me, because I think that's where I feel that there's been a real culture shift, certainly on platforms like LinkedIn, where people are actually being really honest about how they're feeling. And there's a number of business owners that are sharing actual figures and saying, we're at 30% of where we were a year ago. And I absolutely love that level of transparency. And as a leader of a business, people should know in your company where you're at and what you're thinking. But like you say, it's just how you communicate that and doing that in a positive, productive way.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to be able to, if you're very honest about the situation, you all know where you're at, and you can then all work on solutions. If you're behind a closed door, working on solutions, no one feels empowered, and actually no one feels the ownership or accountability for it. But our job as a leader is to provide people with the space to own, be accountable, and take the good and the bad with that accountability, of course. But no, you don't learn or grow otherwise if all decisions are made behind a closed door, or all conversations are had without a wider audience. Then people go, why bother? Why should I even get involved? Because you don't care what I say. But I'm not an expert. I'm not an operations expert. I'm not a finance expert. But I know a couple of people that are in our team, and they're the ones that help guide me. And then I can ask questions that maybe they haven't thought of, because I sit and look at it from a different perspective. But collectively, you're stronger.
Yeah, people talk about collaboration, don't they? And this is really your chance to demonstrate that and not be afraid to do that. And strength in numbers, and like you say, that an FD is going to be far greater at understanding the numbers than you would be necessarily.
Absolutely.
And all that together, and I think it's actually quite an exciting time for businesses. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of fear out there, but it's about how you then manifest that in your plan and how you communicate it. So it's really
I think we've used this time really to coming into a company, you're going to reset things a little bit. So, we've been working a lot of sort of foundational practices and processes that we wanted, that I saw that perhaps were lacking when I came in. So we've used that time to do those things. But it's also been a real time to challenge the norm, because we have the opportunity to do so. It's like, okay, we've never experienced this. So what does that mean? And what does it look like? Just something simple. We've completely changed a home office policy. We were always very much, everybody has to be in the office. We've got to see you all. And actually now we're like, it doesn't matter. It works. We've been as productive when everybody's been at home. We have all the tools to do it. And actually it's something the team feel is a real benefit for their lives. So rock on. Let's carry on with it. It's okay.
That's a nice link, actually, because I was going to ask you next. So, we're both working parents, both working mums, both single working mums, and hats off to you. We are. Elliot, age 9, we're talking about the teachers should be paid £1 million a year after this.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I'm a terrible teacher.
I'm a terrible teacher too, and that's why we're in the job we're in. So, what in terms of from that perspective as a leader, I've got a number of my clients coming to me saying, look, we've got a huge proportion of our staff are working parents as well. If schools are going to not open yet, or we're going to have a lot more time at home, how do you manage that? How do you manage people remotely to keep them inspired, connected, ensure productivity?
I mean, just a moment on the working parents, because obviously we're both in the same situation. I'm schooling a nine-year-old, and I'm also working. So, effectively, I've had to commit to certain timings that I'm with my son to help him, because he's not yet an independent learner at 9. So I help him at certain points, and I have to say to the team, and again, it's the communication, I'm not available at this time. And I'm available here, so I have to work later in the evenings, but the team understand that because that's just my mode of working, and I've been very open about that. Likewise with our working mums, or anyone that has circumstances where they've got other commitments, we have to be flexible and allow that. So sometimes our working hours and working schedules are not the normal 9 to 5, but that's just how it is, and we accept that in everybody, that we know some people might be later in answering an email, others might, but actually it works. And there it's all down to the communication, Lysha. Our whole, and I think it makes me laugh sometimes, and particularly in this industry that I'm in, if you think, we communicate so clearly to in work, what we want, what we don't want, in our in our personal life. We've got to do that exactly the same in every facet. So to our children, to our colleagues, to our partners, even to our sexual selves, like what do we want and what we don't want? If we can't communicate it, how the heck does anyone know? That is so, and people might like it, might not like the communication. They might think, fuck you, I don't disagree with that. But it's your point of view, and it's really important that you share and you have a discussion about it and you debate it and you come to a conclusion to agree to disagree. But it's really important that you communicate.
Yeah, that's the key thing here, isn't it? So as we look ahead, because ultimately that's all any of us can do, and you look at growing your team and hiring, and obviously a lot of my audience will be hiring managers and hiring owners, what qualities will you look for going forward in somebody that you think will continue to inspire you as a leader and will be successful in a job?
I probably have a bit of a different philosophy of recruitment, and I think it's how I look for new employees and new talent is, I look at someone's resume and it only tells you half the story. It tells you sort of functionally what they're good at, what their experience is from a work perspective. I am always so interested in the personality. So I would much prefer to have an interview that basically is, I get you do the job. I can get that because I can see it and your experience tells me, and I can probably go and speak to people in your company that have done the job. What's really important is the personality. Do they fit the culture of your organization? First and foremost. Do they, have they got the personality to be able to cope with the crazy things that life brings at you? COVID-19, lockdown, have they got the mental capacity to cope in a situation like this? And I think this has taught us whether we have or we haven't, and what we need to do. So I always go with the philosophy, a person could come in and do 50% of the job because their resume tells me so. 25% of another 25% might be slightly different, new to them, and 25% of it is absolutely no idea. It's a new company, got new systems, tools, and what have you. But the most important thing is personality, communication skills, ability to problem solve, to collaborate. Those soft skills, the empathy, the vulnerability, the functional bit is fine, but behaviourally, have they got the right? I always look at behaviours and personality. And sometimes I've had people go, you want to know what I do at the weekend? I'm like, actually, yeah, I do. Not because, I want to be prying, but actually it's really important. Is music important? What do you do in your life? Because your life is actually the thing that drives you.
It all blends together, and especially now we realise that what you're posting on Facebook is just as important as what you're posting on LinkedIn. What you do with your children at the weekends, that is just as important to you as a leader, because that's who they are as an individual. It's been a long time coming, this, really, and I think that this whole culture shift is for the better good of everybody else, and it's about being resilient. And how do you understand that? That's how I've always interviewed. I'm not interested in what your CV says, I'm interested in you, and I think that's wonderful to hear it from a leader like you, Claire. I really do.
I think it's really important, Lysha.
Oh, I'm really pleased to hear that. Well, thank you so much. And I have to say, the whole focus on sexual well-being, that is a new genre that I'm going to definitely push forward for. So anyone...
I'll send you some products.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. It's lovely to talk to you.
You too, Lysha. You take care. Thank you.
Bye, lovely.